The power of hindsight makes it really easy for us to go back and look at the NFL draft and say, this team shouldn't have taken X player in the first round. It was a bad pick. But holy crap, what the 49ers did between 1995 and 2005, it's not just some simple moment of hindsight. It is the worst stretch of first round drafting you will ever see in NFL history. To say the Niners were burning through first round draft picks during that decade would be a bit of an understatement. They took 11 swings and had only one player be named an All-Pro during their time with the team. Meanwhile, they had multiple first round selections last 3 seasons or fewer in San Francisco. Between taking Bryant Young in 1994 and Vernon Davis in 2006, the 49ers front office put on a clinic in how not to draft. Even the pair of starting caliber players they landed in this period, Carter and Julian Peterson, went on to have more success elsewhere. This, of course, would lead to the franchise bottoming out during the mid-2000s. But as bad as the Mike Nolan years were, and they were terrible, it was nothing compared to the 49ers' decade of dreadful first-round draft picks between 1995 and 2005. The decade of bad drafting starts with the worst defensive backs imaginable. Really, any post-mortem of the 49ers during this 10-year period has to start with the secondary and the front office squandering 3 selections on some of the most disappointing defensive backs to have ever played in the NFL. It started in 1998 when they took R.W. McQuarters, a decision the team regretted almost immediately. After 2 terrible seasons, he was sent to Chicago for basically next to nothing. After moving on from McQuarters, San Francisco once again used a first-round draft pick on a cornerback, grabbing Ahmed Plummer in 2000. The Ohio State product was serviceable. However, injuries derailed his career after 4 seasons. In 2004, the 49ers drafted Mike Rumph, who was just absolutely awful. He was the worst. Seriously, ask any Niners fan about Rumph and watch their head explode. Replacing Steve Young turned into a nightmare for San Francisco during this period, as they spent quite a bit of first-round draft capital on the position. They burned a first-round pick on Jim Druckenmiller in 1997. He was, of course, gone 2 seasons later. Alex Smith was then taken with the top selection in 2005, and while his career wasn't awful, it's safe to say the Niners would have rather had Aaron Rodgers, who was also drafted that year. One of the biggest lessons NFL franchises can learn from this period, and one of the biggest things you've probably forgotten, is the 49ers first round draft pick in 1999. San Francisco found themselves desperate for defensive tackles heading into the draft. Dana Stubblefield had left for Washington the previous season, while Bryant Young suffered a severe injury during the year. Needing help, San Francisco moved up in the first round to select Reggie McGrew from Florida. Not only was the pick seen as a massive reach at the time, but McGrew showed up to training camp out of shape. He didn't suit up during his rookie season and never started a game for the Niners in 3 seasons with the team. So while San Francisco was drafting for need, they ended up not even being able to help themselves. As bad as McGrew was, he is not the worst of the bunch. That honor goes to Rashawn Woods. In fairness, Woods had a hell of a college career at Oklahoma State. His time in the NFL was the exact opposite though. Taken by San Francisco to replace Terrell Owens, the wide receiver caught 7 passes his rookie season despite being seen as the most pro-ready prospect. He then injured his thumb in year 2 and was cut by the 49ers after that. In a sea of terrible first-round draft picks, Woods was unquestionably the worst of the litter. Now, you most likely forgot about the best draft pick during this span unless you're a hardcore 49ers fan, but the story behind it is interesting too. San Francisco held the 3rd overall pick in the 2000 draft, but sent it to Washington for the 12th and 24th selections. The latter was used on Ahmed Plummer, who we've already covered. The former pick was traded to the New York Jets for the 16th pick and a second rounder that became Jason Webster. After all that draft moving around, the 49ers eventually took Julian Peterson, a very good linebacker who made the All-Pro team in 2003. However, after 6 seasons with the franchise, he would sign for the 49ers' rival Seattle Seahawks and would then go on to the Pro Bowl for 3 consecutive years during his time in the Pacific Northwest. During that stretch, the Niners would miss the playoffs each season. From J.J. Stokes to Alex Smith, I don't think any of us truly know what the hell the San Francisco 49ers were doing between 1995 and 2005 with their first-round draft picks. Anyway, let us know your worst or least or best, I don't know. Just let us know what you remember about this time in 49ers history. That does it for me. I'm Cheyenne Hollis. This is the Touchback, and make sure you hashtag take it out to the 25.